Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espy.
Well, Fastamai, good evening. Welcome to Update, your daily roundup of all the latest news on and from the Isle of Man. Here's a quick look at what's coming up before 5:30. A wave of reactions from the public and politicians as we dive into the rather hot topic of increased political oversight of Manx Care. An inspiring journey with a travelling marshal who's taken his mission beyond the island, delivering much needed equipment to schools in Ukraine. We'll meet the determined couple from London who visited every RNLI station in the UK, and we'll also be talking treasure. Plus, we'll keep you up to speed with any traffic trouble spots to help you glide through your evening commute. And if you'd like to get in touch, 166 177, or you can email studio@manxradio.com. First, let's join Siobhan for the latest news headlines.
A new public consultation is asking people for their views on banning the sale of plastic disposable vapes on the Isle of Man. The Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture is considering the move, which would bring the island in line with England. An interim airport director has been appointed with immediate effect. Jeff Pugh has been involved in aviation for almost 30 years and has been Ronaldsway's head of air traffic services for the past 5. He'll be leading operations while a permanent replacement for outgoing director Gary Cobb is found. Tonight's meeting of the Positive Action Group will be asking, is the Isle of Man economy working for you? It's launching its 2024-25 public meeting programme with a panel debate which will be followed by a question and answer session. The meeting will take place at 7:30pm at the Legion Hall on Market Street in Douglas. There's likely to be more disruption to bus services tomorrow, as bus vanning continues to struggle with sickness and staff shortages. A number of services are still at risk this evening. And a couple from London have raised more than £120,000 to fund a new D-Class inshore lifeboat, which will help the RNLI. Their challenge started a month ago and saw James and Belinda Richardson travel 911 hours in a Porsche 911 to all the lifeboat stations in the UK. Further afield, former Strictly professional Giovanni Pernice says he's relieved to have been cleared of physically threatening or abusing dance partner Amanda Abingdon. The Sherlock actress had complained to BBC bosses about his behaviour. She's received an apology after an investigation upheld some, but not all of her allegations. Israeli forces are reportedly carrying out probing missions on the ground into Lebanon. And a judge in America has ruled the series Baby Reindeer has been wrongly billed as a true story. They're your headlines. I'll have your news at 6.
Thanks very much indeed, Siobhan. Now the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. It's not great out there again. Outbreaks of rain, drizzle on all that will continue throughout this evening. It will clear early tonight though, leaving the rest of the night dry with clear spells developing later. Moderate to fresh northwest winds, they'll turn to the northeast later with minimum overnight temperatures of around 10. It'll be dry and bright tomorrow with some sunny spells, but it will be cloudier in the evening, fresh northerly winds again, and top temperatures tomorrow of around 16. Sunset this evening, 6:56. Sunrise tomorrow morning, 7:21.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Simply income protection from Kestrel Insurance. A choice of benefits. Simple underwriting and peace of mind with a regular income for up to 2 years if you're unable to work due to illness or injury. Kestrel Insurance is registered with the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Carpetland, the carpet specialist with the island's best value carpets in stock, often fitted within a week. Furnitureland for 3-piece suites, dining and living room furniture, and a selection of amazing beds. Carpetland and Furnitureland, West Street, Ramsey.
Manx Mobility and Onken have it all. Daily living aids, wide-fitting shoes, rise recliners, beds and scooters, including lightweight and airline-approved models. Call in and see how our expert team can make your life easier. Manx Mobility at the top of Summer Hill.
At Bond Fabrics, we're not just a fabric shop. As well as curtains and upholstery and dress and costume fabrics, we've knitting and crocheting wools, made-to-measure curtain and blind service, plus poles and tracks. Visit Strand Street, Douglas, call 611856 or see bondfabrics.im.
You're listening to Update on Manx Radio, exactly 4.5 minutes past 5. Now, 2 MHKs are calling for a member of Tynwald to be appointed to shadow the Manx Care Board as a way of reforming healthcare. Chris Thomas has tabled a 4-part motion for the October sitting, which starts 2 weeks tomorrow, incidentally. He has the support of Garth MHK Andrew Smith, and both of them have been talking to Simon Richardson.
We've established that there isn't a particularly good relationship between people like the Isle of Man Medical Society and the management of Manx Care. We all want a better healthcare service. Manx Care needs pivoting, Department of Health and Social Care needs pivoting, and my motion in October, Tynwald, is to achieve that.
Now, interestingly, a proposal that a member of Tynwald be nominated to shadow the Manx Care board. Tell us the thinking behind that.
So the law prohibits a member of Tynwald being on the board. I think it would be a good idea to not put the Minister of Health in the position whereby he's always having to megaphone, to amplify, to exaggerate what Manx Care tell him. We need actually a spokesman from the board itself, a politician to take questions and to represent Manx Care inside Tynwald.
And Andrew Smith, this is based along your thinking as well. You're on a similar wavelength on this.
Yes, I'm on a similar wavelength to Mr. Thomas, and very pleased to second this motion. It all came about when I think it was during the assisted dying debate, where obviously we had much more integrated discussions with the Isle of Man Medical Society, with the doctors separately, with clinicians, nurses, etc. And there was a recognition there that there was a disconnect between those professions and the Manx Care board. And as a consequence of that, in discussions with Mr. Thomas, it came out that he was on a similar wavelength. So we thought, well, better to pool ideas. 2 heads are better than one. And we're now looking to work on this together, to look at the mechanics of the Manx Care board and how better we can improve things and improve things for the nation.
That's MHK's Andrew Smith, and before that, Chris Thomas. I should say at this point we have contacted Manx Care for a response on this. But the idea of having this increased political oversight of Manx Care has really raised mixed reaction from members of the public. These callers to Manx Radio's Man in Line today were not sure whether it would affect change or address the continued issue of the health body's overspending.
How's that going to work with confidentiality stuff? The strategy that's going forward is the Health Arm's Length organisation what's the statutory power to say that this person who may be appointed, he or she may be appointed, is going to get the stuff? Because most of the medical stuff is confidential, most of the strategy. And do we then need a health department? Can we not collapse that then? Does Mr. Hooper then pack in and go back to the back benches?
I thought the whole idea of Manx Care and this wonderful split from moving it away from the DHSC was to do exactly what they're doing now, would get rid of that. So now they're saying, oh, we do need somebody to look over it. So my comeback straight away, right, so if you don't need Manx Care, get rid of it, get rid of all the high-paid executives they've suddenly decided to sprout everywhere, and start going back to the DHSC and say, fix your problems that you left behind, and get it done, instead of trying to add another layer in, which won't do any good, because it's just another obscure layer that we will never hear what's going on, because it will be secret. I don't understand it. You know, first of all, we say it needs to be separate from government, it needs to be separate from the politicians, and now we've got to the point where, we'll have to have a politician watching over the top of it, because you can't trust them.
You can abdicate responsibility and apply blame as politically convenient. That's what it's there for. Manx Care can say it's underfunded. That kind of tradition kind of shows you it's underfunded.
So some of the callers to Manx Radio's Man in Line today, after hearing the views of Chris Thomas and Andrew Smith, just say again, we have contacted Manx Care for a response on this. Well, Treasury and Department of Health and Social Care ministers are actively discussing how to improve the financial oversight of Manx Care. The Chief Minister says addressing continued overspending is an absolute priority, but he's yet to set out the turnaround plan he promised earlier this month. Alfred Cannon described this as very much the issue of the day.
There has to be some financial control applied to our health system. The arguments about whether it is underfunded are not that they need to be looked at in the medium to longer term. But whatever the case, the department, the healthcare system must operate to the budgets it is given. It was given an extra £43 million in last year's budget, and part of that revenue call went in greater scale to the taxpayers who were asked to pay an extra 10%. We're looking at a £16 million overspend, which must come down, because otherwise, without financial control, you have to question whether how much money you give the health system, whether it will ever be able to run within a set budget. It is the big question of our age. Is an absolute priority for me and the Council of Ministers right at this precise moment. Not only do we have to get it under financial control and get it under financial control very, very quickly, and the operational plans that need to go with that, but we also do need to understand the long-term funding question. But you can only really, I believe, go to the public and talk about long-term funding when you can clearly demonstrate that the organisation can operate within a given budget. So it needs to get back into order. That needs to happen very quickly, and it is a top priority for us all.
That is the Chief Minister, Alfred Cannon.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Now let's turn our attention to business brought to us by Ramsey Crookall, and Manx Radio is reporting a financial loss of £1,888 for the year ending March 2024, and this has been outlined in its latest annual report, which has been published today. Christian Jones is with me now. He's been reading over this report. Christian, first, just briefly give us a flavour of what it's saying.
So the public service broadcaster has highlighted a challenging year with reduced commercial revenues and increased operating expenses, resulting in a reversal from last year's profit of just over £14,500. Naturally, there is a government subvention too, which accounts for nearly half the station's income.
So like you say, there is this subvention. This needs Tynwald approval every year. Is there anything specifically about that in the report?
Well, the board members say they see no reason why any future subvention will be declined. However, that decision ultimately lies with Tynwald, therefore is outside of the control of the broadcaster. But it does add, as a result of that, it does create uncertainty that may cast significant doubt on Manx Radio's ability to continue, and that appears to remain a going concern.
So just looking at the finances then, Christian, and specifically about this loss, do we know why it's occurred?
Well, in short, it's because of the increased operating costs and the commercial revenues falling. Most of Manx Radio's revenue comes from advertising, and the report outlines that pressures facing Manx Radio are largely from an evolving advertising market, but also falling as local businesses continue to recover from the economic effects of the pandemic.
And just to round up now, this report is going to go to Tynwald next month in October. It's not subject to a motion, so I understand politicians will not be commenting on it during that sitting of the court. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. This report is just being laid before the court, but if any politician does want to have their say on the broadcaster's future, then they'll get that chance when Treasury requests approval from Tynwald to hand over the annual subvention.
Christian, thank you very much indeed. You can read more about this at manxradio.com. 12 minutes past 5. Let's turn our attention now to the stock market report, also brought to us by Ramsey Crookall. They tell us that UK and European stocks were lower starting the week and the final trading session of September in negative territory. The euro slipped after earlier nudging higher on German inflation data, while commodity currencies rose on hopes for a turnaround in China's economy. Oil prices were steady and on track to fall for the third month in a row as a strong supply outlook and questions around demand outweighed fears that Israeli strikes in Lebanon and Yemen could escalate conflict in the Middle East. And gold eased from its recent record high but was still set for its biggest quarterly gain in more than 8 years on the back of geopolitics and the US Federal Reserve's rate cut. The commodities then, gold finished off 0.92% at $2,633. Brent stands up 0.57% at $72.37. At the close, the FTSE 100 was off 1.01% at 8,236. And a short time ago, the Dow Jones was trading off 0.29% at 42,190. And the Nasdaq was off 0.08% at 18,133.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
3:15.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Thank you very much to the texters who've just let us know there is an RTC on the St Mark's Road in Ballasalla. Just checking the police page, they do tell us that emergency services are dealing with an incident on the St Mark's Road and motorists are asked to avoid the area at this time. I understand there's quite big queues around that area, so do head a different way if that's your usual route home. Other than that, all looking okay on other roads, just the usual roadworks to look out for currently. To be aware of with the steam packet, the evening sailing to Heysham is going to be a little bit later leaving this evening. It's going to go at 8:30. Passengers need to check in no later than 7:45. That's because there was a technical issue this morning that had to be sorted out, so there's been a little bit of a knock on to the sailing times today. All okay pretty much down at the airport. Buses, there are going to be more disruption to bus services likely tomorrow, so do keep up to date with all of that on our Facebook page. And just a reminder, emergency services are dealing with an RTC on the St Mark's Road in Ballasalla and motorists are asked to avoid the area.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at
It's just gone 5:15. A well-known face in the world of motorcycling on the Isle of Man is currently in Ukraine to deliver equipment to schools affected by the ongoing conflict there. Vice Chair of the Manx Motorcycle Club, Jim Hunter, along with 2 fellow bikers, has visited a school today to drop off a winter power disruption unit made possible by donations from people connected to the Manx Grand Prix. A short time ago, I caught up with Jim to find out more.
Driving the car is Israel Gillette, and Israel's a Southern 100 competitor. Sat behind me is Ronnie Russell, of course, a past Manx Grand Prix competitor. So the 3 of us have been on this little excursion through Romania into Ukraine, and we've driven up to Kyiv, and we're visiting 2 schools. We visited one school down in the southwest of the country, and we provided some multimedia facilities for them. So they've got a projector to use in the hall and classrooms, and lots of sports equipment. And then today we've been in a school, it's called the ORT Lyceum School, Kyiv, 1,500 students. It's right in the centre of town. Their problem as a school is that their power supply gets affected when there's any sort of attack. And in the winter, it's extremely cold. They needed some equipment that they could use to provide power when the mains electricity goes off. So thanks to donations from people mainly associated with the Manx Grand Prix, we were able to buy this uninterrupted power supply, which cost us, through donations, cost around about €4,500. And we bought a lot of modelling equipment to give out to the students in school today.
And Jim, I think it's fair to say that you've had a real insight into what typical now daily life is like for people living in Kyiv.
Last night we had the hotel and the city air raid sirens went off. I was up out of bed, straight down to the basement and into the air raid shelter. Then it didn't seem like anything was going to happen, so I went back up to my room, took a look out the window from my hotel room, and there was a Russian drone attack taking place. I was pretty stressed about that. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, to be honest. But the startling thing is, when I got up, it wasn't on any of the locals' radars. It was that's just the way it is now, and we get these attacks on a daily basis.
That is Jim Hunter, who's the Vice Chair of the Manx Motorcycle Club, also a travelling marshal here on the Isle of Man, and he regularly does these sort of charity trips. I spoke to him at length about what they've been doing and also the sort of insight, as I mentioned there, that he's getting into daily life for people in Ukraine, and you can find that at manxradio.com in the latest edition of the Manx newscast. You're listening to Update on Manx Radio, 18 and a half minutes past 5. Just a reminder to avoid the St Mark's Road at the moment because there has been an RTC in the past quarter of an hour and police are dealing with the situation. Now, Manx National Heritage says the discovery of a hoard of coins further enhances the island's rich Viking legacy. Now, this hoard was declared treasure today during an inquest held at Douglas Courthouse. Siobhan Fletcher was there. I bet it was all very exciting. Siobhan, what do we know?
Well, Beth, the hoard consists of 46 separate fragments, but that amounts to 36 full silver coins. They were discovered early this year by metal detectorists John Crow and David O'Hare even. They were detecting with permission on private land and found the first coin on the 23rd of January. They then returned to the site several more times until the end of April.
So why does an inquest need to be held in cases like this?
So essentially, if someone finds something that may be treasure and a museum, so the Manx Museum, wishes to acquire it, then an inquest needs to take place. The purpose is to establish whether the find is treasure, who found it, when and where it was found. At the inquest today, Deputy Coroner of Inquest Rebecca Cubban read aloud statements from the two men who found the coins and the landowner, and heard evidence from the curator of archaeology at Manx National Heritage, that's Alison Fox.
So what did she have to say?
So what actually was quite interesting was she explained how Viking coins worked. So these coins were 90% pure silver. That's where the coin's value came from. And so she said there'd be lots of little cuts in the coins to see how valuable they actually were. And she also said some of the fragments found might have gone into the ground that way. So for example, if someone wanted a half penny for something, they would literally cut a full coin in two. She said the hoard represented a good-sized savings account, with the coins put into the ground in 3 different phases, likely in the 1020s, the 1050s and 1070 AD, with each coin worth about £20 in today's money at the time. And she added that the discovery further adds to our understanding of the Isle of Man as an offshore financial centre in the Viking Age.
How amazing. So are further digs going to be carried out at the site now that M&H knows of this discovery?
So no, actually, the organisation will not be further excavating the field, as essentially the coins were discovered no more than 8 inches from the surface. That means they've been moved from their original location into the topsoil over time. So whilst it might be exciting, the discovery doesn't actually reveal anything new about the site. It's not clear if they were originally buried in a bag or some other container either. However, they did say this discovery marks the second treasure inquest on the island this year, and they confirmed the coins will go on display at the Manx Museum from this Wednesday, the 2nd of October, until the 13th.
Brilliant, Siobhan. Thank you very much indeed. You're listening to Update 21 minutes past 5. Sport time now. Let's welcome Darren Timpson.
Good evening. Starting with football, Peel remain top of the Canada Life Premier League by a point after they beat St George's 8-0 on Saturday. Foxhill are refusing to fall behind though, as they beat Laxey 5-0 to keep in touching distance of the Westerners. In the Arden and Drug Unlimited Division 2, Braddon stay ahead of Michael United in the table despite drawing 1-1 with Douglas Old Boys. However, the teams are now separated by goal difference after Michael beat Governors Athletic 7-4. In rugby, Douglas finally got their first win of the season after they beat Vale of Loon 53-6 in the Regional 2 Northwest. Meanwhile, Vagabond's struggles continue as they lost heavily to Colin and Nelson 45-0. In hockey, 3 teams continued their flawless start to the season in the Mixed Premier League. Valkyries A beat Castleton and Celts 3-2, Backers A edged out Harlequins 2-1, and Vikings A dominated Backers B 4-0. On to motorsport, and TT competitor Dominic Herbertson has agreed a deal to join WTF Racing Team for 2025. Announcing the news this afternoon, the crews confirmed the Hexham man will join James Hilliers for the squad racing commitments next year. Both riders will run the Honda Fireblade machinery in the Superbike and Super Stock classes, along with the CBR 600 RRs in the Supersport categories. Team owner Alan Gardner says Herbertson is someone he's supported for a while and is very happy to finally sign him officially. Lastly, in cricket, the Isle of Man men's national cricket side have made it 2 wins from 2 on the first day of the European Cricket Championships Challenger Division playoffs. The Manx side beat Cheshire by 9 wickets in 8 overs to go top of the table on day 1. Earlier in the day, the island beat Estonia for the 3rd time in 4 games by 18 runs. They'll play Greece, Estonia and then Greece again tomorrow, with more details on our website.
Darren, thank you very much indeed. Just a reminder, if you are heading home, emergency services are dealing with an RTC on the St Mark's Road in Ballasalla. Everyone is asked to avoid that area if they can. We're getting lots of texts in to say that traffic around that area generally is quite bad, understandably, at the moment. So if you can plan ahead and take a different route, you'd be well advised to do so. 23 and a half minutes past 5. A couple from London who've travelled 911 hours in a Porsche 911, visiting every RNLI station in the UK, have finally completed their challenge on the Isle of Man. Belinda and James Richardson arrived at the Peel station with their car Splash at exactly 9:11 this morning. Now, since 2018, the couple have been fundraising for a new D-class inshore lifeboat, and now, after 39 ferries and 4 flights, they've managed to raise the money they need. They told us ending their journey here on the Isle of Man made it all extra special.
Importantly, the Isle of Man, because That's where it all started 200 years ago. It's William Hillary.
What's driven the passion behind the RNLI for you guys?
The people. They have fantastic stations, fantastic boats, amazing locations. But it's the people. And it's the people that they go and save. It could be you or I or someone that we know, a relative, a friend. But one loss of life or one life saved impacts on so many other people.
And also, I think the unsung heroes are their families and loved ones who allow them to do what they do. They're very humbling people. They don't brag about what they're doing, but not what I got. It's what we as a team did. And that's the most impressive thing. It's the best team in the world.
We live in London, central London, and there are 4 lifeboat stations in central London that all came about because of the Marchioness disaster, where 57 people lost their lives in the Thames on a party boat. The RNLI saw that there was a gap because there was no one there to rescue them, so they set up 4 stations. There are an awful lot of mental health issues around the country, and these lifeboat crews get involved in that. They will go sometimes to rescue people, thankfully, that maybe do make it, but also to recover people for their families. And that has a big impact on the crews as well.
I understand you guys have also done some fundraising.
Well, we've been raising the funds for a relief D-class lifeboat. It's the smallest boat within the fleet. We were recently told it would be called, its number would be D911, which is only fitting. But the money we needed to raise is £110,000, and we've actually raised £127,377. So thank you to everybody who's contributed to that over the last 6 years. We're so proud to be associated with the RNI, and particularly that boat will save lives.
That was Belinda and James Richardson, who had just very shortly before that interview arrived here on the Isle of Man after what is an incredible challenge. 911 hours in a Porsche 911. Somebody did just ask, though, how they managed to do that. If they were on a flight, I don't know. We won't ask any of those questions. But do go to the Manx Radio website and you can find a full report about what happened and also see the video of them finishing their challenge as well. It's well worth having a look at, but what an incredible thing to do. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on Update this evening. Just a reminder to avoid the St Mark's Road in Ballasalla currently. There has been an RTC in that area in the past 20 minutes or so. There are quite big tailbacks all around at the moment because it's a bit of a logjam there. So do avoid that area if you can, if that's a normal way that you travel home. And also just to let you know about the Positive Action Group meeting which is taking place this evening, is discussing the topic, is the Isle of Man economy working for you? Now PAG is launching its 24-25 public meeting programme with this panel debate which will be followed by a Q&A session. The meeting, if you're interested in going along, is taking place at 7:30 and it's in the Legion Hall on Market Street in Douglas, and as ever everybody will be made very, very welcome. We'll have a report about what happens tonight in breakfast tomorrow. But that is all from Update this evening. Thank you so much for your company. Coming up next, there's a chance to hear again a walk with John Dog Collister as our Howard takes a wander through the Currachs, which of course is one of John Dog's favourite locations. This is a programme that was first broadcast back in 2010, but it's so good, it's absolutely worth a listen. Love all this archive material that we're playing, especially for our 60th anniversary year here on Manx Radio. After the Island Live with John Dog Collister, it will be Greatest Hits Live from 6 with Chris Kinley, then Time for Brass from 9 with Ian Cottier, and then Dave Moore will be here to round off your Monday from 10 p.m. with After Hours. Whatever you're doing, I hope you have a lovely evening, and we'll be back with you here again on Update from 5 tomorrow.